If you don't understand the system of white supremacy, what it is, how it works, and how white oppressive forces works unrelentingly behind the scenes to maintain it, then everything they do will only confuse you. Case, point, and proof. Have you ever noticed that we rarely, if ever, receives any negative narratives about the white society? Virtually all information that we receive about the white society are positive and exalting of themselves. Can you not see just how cartoonishly unrealistic this scenario actually is? The reason for this unrealistic scenario is because, according to white social scientists, to state anything negative about the white dominant society would undermine their position of social dominance. Furthermore, white social scientists have also concluded that people are inherently tribal and therefore do not naturally adhere to the long-term dominance of other racial groups over their lives. People must be manipulated to accept the long-term dominance of other racial groups over their lives. Therefore, to meet these criteria, all narratives that we receive about the white society are deliberately falsely distorted to exalt their racial group. Doing so endorses the white society's position of social dominance and makes us more compliant with their dominance over our lives. Have you ever also noticed that virtually all study results that we receive from white sources favors themselves over black people? Can you not see just how cartoonishly unrealistic that scenario also is? It's fraudulent propaganda that's designed to instill the myth of white racial superiority into our subconscious minds. And it conveys the subliminal message that Caucasians are inherently superior and are therefore supposed to rule over its black population. This programming not only makes black people more compliant with white dominance over our lives, it in fact, in many cases, makes many of us even prefer it. Have you also noticed that virtually all information that black people receives about ourselves from white sources are consistently negative and black racially devaluing and black racially demoralizing? Certainly you can see just how cartoonishly unrealistic that scenario actually is. Here's what's actually being done. Whenever those in positions of power wants to control a targeted population, they always heavily demoralize them by subjecting them to receiving only the fraudulent, worst, and most demoralizing disinformation about themselves. When people are constantly inundated with fraudulent, negative, demoralizing information about themselves, they become demoralized, divided, self-loathing, and they become more compliant with their oppressors' dominance over their lives. It also attacks the core foundation of what bonds them as a people, and they can then be ruled over forever. No group can be constantly subjected to receiving only the fraudulent, worst narratives about themselves and not suffer some adverse effect. It's not possible. This is precisely what white propagandists have done to the black population. This psychological warfare system is deployed like a massive media marketing campaign that constantly subjects black people to receiving only the fraudulent, worst narratives about ourselves. The problem has never been a silly slave syndrome myth. Most black people are totally clueless of the many propaganda campaigns that are being deployed by white oppressive forces to keep us thinking and behaving in ways that serves and protects the system of white supremacy. Here's another example that makes this point. Many black people also often ask the question of why does the white society constantly exaggerates and overemphasizes the issue of black on black crime? Clearly, it's not because they care about us. The truth is a white self-serving reason why it's being done. It's being done because it manipulates black people to perceive ourselves as being our own worst enemies. This shifts our collective aggressions away from the white oppressive society and redirects it towards and against ourselves, thus profoundly dividing us. The white oppressor's black on black crime propaganda is also designed to make us fear each other. The white ruling elites realized a long time ago that a black population that fears each other is much more easier to control. Fear is one of the most powerful human emotions, and it can be used as a tool for controlling targeted populations. Ruling class for many centuries have understood the power of intentionally invoking fear into a targeted population as a means of control. Social scientists calls it fear psychosis. Many black people also often ask the question of, given that there are so many other racial groups living under the system of white supremacy, why is it that black people are targeted the harshest? More specifically, why does the white society put so much time and effort into denigrating and marginalizing the image of black people? Here's the true reason why. Within all manners of warfare, the group representing the greatest threat is always targeted the harshest. During the 1960s, African Americans' unified protests against the U.S. system of white supremacy was unprecedented, and it still remains unrivaled by any other racial group. African Americans had unknowingly proven themselves as being the greatest threat against the U.S. system of white supremacy. Therefore, the image of African Americans is being deliberately tarnished the harshest. This is called character assassination. This character assassination of African Americans is deliberately designed to strip us of the social respect and credibility that are needed in order to gather other groups to follow us in any future rebellious endeavors against the white society. As I've stated in the intro, if you don't understand the system of white supremacy, what it is, how it works, and how white oppressive forces works unrelentingly behind the scenes for maintaining the system of white supremacy, everything they do will only confuse you. Many black people also often ask the question, why is Africa so negatively distorted within the Western world media? This is proven by the fact that the Western media rarely, if ever, shows the many beautiful cities in Africa, and instead, for the most part, only shows the most poorest parts of Africa. Here's the true reason why this is being done and how it benefits the system of white supremacy. Africa will always be falsely negatively distorted within the white controlled media, because doing so is necessary to keep the descendants of enslaved Africans believing that the white society's enslavement of our ancestors ultimately benefited us. That propaganda campaign literally makes millions of us feel grateful for the white society's brutal enslavement of our ancestors. This embedded mindset also prevents us from demanding the reparation that we're still owed. Our core problem is that most black people are totally clueless of the white oppressors' insidious disinformation propaganda campaigns that they deploy against us unrelentingly. It's being deployed daily and unrelentingly. Black people are the unknowing victims of the most elaborately deployed psychological warfare, disinformation propaganda campaigns in world history. If you doubt this truth that I'm disclosing, it's because you are unaware of the true underlying relationship that presently exists between the white society and the black population. The true hidden reality is that although the white government now publicly professes equality for all of its citizens, in reality, it's secretly unrelentingly committed toward the preservation of its nation's white social dominance over its black population. There's also an immense concern of massive unified black retribution that secretly exists amongst the white ruling elites, given the white society's long history of brutally exploiting and mistreating black people. This immense fear of massive unified black retribution and unrelenting commitment towards maintaining their white social dominance necessitates that white oppressive forces deploy systems for maintaining their social dominance and that protects their nation from massive unified black retribution. In fact, if the white oppressors did not implement these systems, it would then be diametrically opposing its own self-interest. It's our true reality. The white society also prevents us from unifying and liberating ourselves by keeping us drowning in lots of false information. This process was deployed to us in many different stages. First, the white oppressors socially engineered our minds to exclude the white society from all of our analysis in regard to our plight and condition, and to instead always blame ourselves for everything. Everything that's wrong, blame ourselves. They also labeled those of us who attempts to point out any racist wrongdoings by the white society as being victim peddlers and or playing the race card. Those accusations are actually gaslighting counter narratives that are deliberately designed to deter us from blaming the white oppressive society for any of the societal hardships that we endure under the system of white supremacy. Through this repetitive manipulating programming system, they've conditioned millions of black people to believe that there's no merit behind any claims blaming the white society for anything. This is the reason why nowadays, whenever some of us speak openly about white racism, many black people respond angrily by saying that they're sick and tired of hearing us talking about white people. Stop blaming white people. Everything's on us. They insist that it's ourselves that are our worst enemies. It's literally a programmed response. The weaker the mental fortitude a black person has, the stronger the programming is. Targeted populations are easily manipulated when they're unaware of what's actually being done to them. The white oppressors also socially engineered the black masses to perceive the white society as being the authorities of all that's true, in spite of their notoriously corrupt, conniving, and deceitful history of the contrary. Then, after successfully conditioning the minds of the black masses to think as I just described, they keep inundating us with mental enslaving lies that keeps us literally drowning in disinformation in regards to our plight and condition. They have us believing in many false things that literally insults our intelligence. Is why many of us says the dumbest shit with a straight face, such as believing the idiotic ideology that we made the N-word ours and that using it ridiculously empowers us. It's also why millions of us believe that we're being controlled by a silly slave syndrome myth, which presents what would in fact be the least plausible and least effective method used for controlling millions of people down generational lines. It's simply not how true brainwashing works. It's also how they have millions of us believing that we're the true Jews found within a fictional Bible written by our most ungodliest enemies. It's also how they have millions of us now believing that we Africans in the United States are the true indigenous Americans, although countless millions of us have taken DNA analysis that have scientifically proven our African identity. It's also why millions of us now perceives ourselves as being our worst enemies, in spite of a brutally horrific history proving that white oppressive forces are in fact our worst enemies. These fraudulent propaganda are the true reasons why we're now more divided and more confused in regards to our plight and condition than at any previous time in history. It's the truth of our plight and condition. The ultimate goal is to divide and confuse the Black population to such an extent that it hinders our ability to unify ourselves against the white oppressive society in the interest of liberating ourselves. This is the truth of our plight and condition. It's a well-proven control system. This control system was implemented in 1968 in response to that decade's unprecedented unified Black protests. It's how white oppressive forces prevents it from ever happening again. And as long as we're kept within this collective condition, we can then be ruled over forever. Now you know the truth of our plight and condition. Many Black people are afraid to learn and accept the truth of our plight and condition because of the inherent call for action that comes with accepting the truth. Therefore, they cling to their biblical fairy tales and their silly slave syndrome myths that keeps us complacently and mentally enslaved by the white society. Brothers and sisters, time to wake up to the truth. One love and peace.